This is episode 2 of the Super Parent Syndrome, and I am your host, Dr. Nick Fanning, working dad of a blended family of 4. Today's topic is learn how to walk.
Parenting in the 21st century is ever evolving, and while you balance work, kids, and your sanity, it's easy to feel discouraged. Welcome to the Super Parent Syndrome with your host, Dr. Nick Fanning.
Hello again, my beautiful, brave parents. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, single or married. If you have kids, you have stress and fears and doubts, and I am here to tell you, you are not alone. Today, we're going to talk about learn how to walk. Now, remember watching your kids learning how to walk? All the falls, the frustrations, the bumps, the bruises, how just angry they would get at times. And you'd be there to help them up, to hold their fingers, to encourage them to go on and on. Do you remember how long that actually took? Man, they even had to learn how to crawl, to get up on all fours. And then they did the whole furniture cruising thing. Then, of course, the falls on the bottoms, falls on the faces, the multitasking they did, and then finally, those magical few steps. And then almost overnight, it seems like they get it. And then instead of just walking, they were running. Now, I remind you of this because we have forgotten how to struggle, how to fail again and again, and yet push on until success happens. Folks, this is a very important principle because if you think about most things in life, it's not easy. In fact, all great things rarely come easy to us, and we have to work over and over again. In fact, if you think about the story of Thomas Edison creating the light bulb, a reporter once asked him, Thomas, how did it feel to fail 1,000 times before you got to actually invent the light bulb? And he said instead, didn't feel like I didn't fail. I just learned 1,000 different ways how not to make a light bulb. And yet, folks, we are just so hard on ourselves when we try to adopt a new goal or a dream or some sort of hope, and maybe after 1 or 2 tries, we give up. And the reason why is I think we've gotten out of touch about just how important it is to embrace the struggle, to embrace that kind of the winning it. And yet we're addicted to it when it comes to those movies, like the Rocky montage, or we joke about, hey, we're going to do the 80s montages. The hero finally adopts the struggle and decides to train for the final battle. One of the books I'd recommend to you is from Joseph Campbell. It's called The Hero's Journey. And it's called that messy middle for a reason, folks. And what he describes is he says that initially the hero will always turn away the challenge. He's just not ready yet. And then finally, through some sort of action or circumstance where it finally gets bad enough, they accept it. And from that point on until the big final battle is what they call the messy middle. The failing over and over again, the struggling. If you think about any movie, it's the time where they're working out or they're learning how to fight and they constantly get beat up. You can think about the old Rocky movies or even newer ones such as Ant-Man or things like that where it's not very simple. There's growth. There's the adaptation, the learning of new skills that's going to take. And folks, you're deep in the middle of it. It's not just for you, but think about also what our kids are going through too. They're deep in the middle of it too. They're going to school, maybe they're doing practices, they're learning how to do new things. And yet, we get so frustrated that we just can't get it right away. That maybe perhaps we're not naturally gifted. But I can tell you this, even the gifted have their own battles to fight. And so I ask you, for you, or maybe even for your own kids, where are you or where are they still learning to walk? In other words, what dreams, what hopes are they still trying to learn that they're having to fight? And yeah, you may fall down 50 times. But remember, you fought the battle before when you learned how to walk. It's okay to help them. It's okay to help your kids. It's okay to ask for help. But again, even when your own children, you have to let them fall. And you have to let them learn how to pick themselves up and back again. In one of the books called Sacred Parenting, they talk, it's a Christian-based book, but they talk a lot about sin and how that you have to be there to mentor your children, but you have to let them honestly learn and deal with the ramifications of sin on their own. and be there to help them through it and be there to help pick them back up. But that's just part of growing up, and part of growth is allowing them and knowing that they're going to sin on their own or fail on their own, and allowing them to do so safely, of course, but allowing them to do so that they can be bigger and better as a result of that. So folks, I ask you, whether it's coming down to business, owning your own business, maybe it's an employee, maybe it's an employee you're going to try to help get through this messy middle and try to help them work through that. Maybe it's your own children and they have their own hopes, goals, and dreams that you have to help them work through that. Or maybe really honestly, the hardest person there is to help, yourself. Where are you failing? One of those things that you may want to journal on or maybe even meditate about is, what are you struggling through that you have to keep pushing until you succeed? Folks, life is too short. In the entire span of existence, in the entire time of history, in the entire universe, there's only going to be one of you. One of you, and this is the only chance, and it's just a little clip of time. You need to be able to embrace that this life is short, that you get one shot, and you have to go all out for it. Push on until success happens. Don't give up, otherwise we'd all still be crawling. Be ready to fall down 50 times, and yet get up each time and say, bring your best, because I'm going to give you mine. So folks, embrace learning how to walk and start applying that to other wins. Furthermore, do it with your own children. You got to teach them that, because you don't want them to someday struggle for the same thing. If they're falling down, let them fall, but help them pick themselves up again and try again. This is Dr. Nick Fanning with the Super Parent Syndrome, and I will see you next week for a brand new episode. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Super Parent Syndrome. Please be sure to visit peptalksforparents.com for more content and our free newsletter. And remember, you are not alone.